My daughter, who got married just 3 months ago, suddenly appeared at my door in the middle of the night. What could have happened? When I saw her, her face was swollen and bruised. I was shocked by how much her appearance had changed. As she began to tell me her story, I shook with anger. This was unforgivable. Had his promise to make her happy been nothing but a lie? I vowed to get revenge on whoever had hurt my precious daughter. My name is Susanna, and I'm 50 years old. I divorced when my daughter, Layden, was still young, and I raised her while working full-time. Layden is shy but has a strong spirit and works hard. Thanks to her determination, she landed a job at her dream company. Layden has always been my motivation, helping me keep going through tough times. When she told me she had someone special she wanted me to meet, my heart was filled with joy. The person she introduced was a man named Carter, who worked at one of her company's clients. He was 7 years older than Layden and looked smart in his suit. Greeting me kindly, he seemed serious and sincere right away. "I've come to ask for your blessing for Layden and me to get married," he said. But I was surprised, as I thought I was just meeting her boyfriend. Layden was only 23, and they had only been dating for 6 months. "You're both still young," I gently said. "Don't you think it's a bit early to think about marriage?" I tried to discourage them politely, but Carter stood up straight and looked me in the eye. "I can't imagine being with anyone else but Layden," he said earnestly. "I believe I'll never meet another woman as amazing as her." His serious expression showed how much he cared for my daughter. "Mom, I feel the same way," Layden added. "Please give us your blessing for our marriage." Seeing their determination and hearing Layden's words, I agreed to support them. "Thank you so much. I promise I'll make Layden happy," Carter said. As I watched the two of them smile at each other, I couldn't help but smile too. But after Carter left, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease about their marriage. Something just didn't feel right. Is this really okay? Isn't it too soon? I thought. I've heard that all parents have mixed feelings when their children get married. To be honest, I had imagined my daughter would marry much later, so I wasn't really prepared for this. They looked so happy together. Surely, everything would be fine. After that, we met Carter's parents, and everything went smoothly as the wedding approached. Both Carter and Layden were only children, and Carter's parents seemed to really like her. "Mom, I'm thinking of living with Carter's parents after we get married," Layden said. While it was nice that they liked her, I felt uneasy about their suggestion to live together. "Are you sure about this? I don't have experience, but I've heard living with in-laws can be tough," I replied. "I get along well with his parents, and with Carter there, I'm not worried," Layden assured me. I figured that since she was sincere and loved by her elders, she would manage just fine. Plus, their home was only a 20-minute drive from mine, so I felt reassured that I could get there quickly if needed. After the wedding, my daughter started her new life with her in-laws. I thought she must be busy working hard. However, about a month later, I noticed changes. The daily messages from Layden stopped, and even when I messaged her, I rarely received a reply. Not wanting to intrude too much but feeling worried, I decided to call her. When I did, Carter answered. "Could I speak to Layden?" I asked. "She's in the bath right now. Don't worry, she's doing fine," he replied. His tone was soft but left no room for further discussion, so I ended the call without hearing my daughter's voice. After that, I still didn't get any messages or calls from Layden. I decided to visit her in person. Carter's mother had told me to come by any time, so I went to their home that weekend. When I arrived, Carter's mother answered the intercom curtly and told me Layden was out with Carter. "I'm sorry for coming by suddenly. Do you know when they'll be back?" I asked. All I got in return was a deep sigh. "You should call before coming. I don't know when they'll return." feeling that she had a point. I couldn't say anything more and had to leave Carter's house. I wondered if I was worrying too much, but it felt like Carter and his mother's attitudes had changed since the wedding, and I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. After thinking about it, I figured I'd feel better if I could just hear Layton's cheerful voice, so I called her workplace. To my shock, I was told she had already resigned. Moreover, they told me that they were in trouble because Layton had quit so suddenly. There's no way she would just leave her job like that. She was overjoyed when she got the offer from her dream company. We had celebrated together. Besides, Layton was excited about balancing work and home life, so it didn't make sense for her to resign out of nowhere. Something was definitely wrong, but I didn't know what to do. If I visited Carter's house again, I wasn't sure if they would even let me see her. I considered contacting the police, but then something unexpected happened. 2 days after I learned about her resignation, the doorbell rang in the middle of the night. Who could it be at 2 a.m.? I suspiciously looked at the intercom screen. It was dark, and I couldn't see clearly, but it looked like Layton. I rushed to the door and quickly opened it. What happened? I've been so worried because I couldn't contact you. Mom, I'm sorry. My happiness at seeing her quickly faded when I saw her face. Layton was unrecognizable, swollen and covered in bruises. What on earth happened to you? You look terrible. For a moment, my daughter trembled and cried, and I just rubbed her back, trying to calm her down. Layton spoke haltingly, her voice thick with emotion. As she shared her story, it became clear that Carter's attitude had completely changed right after their wedding. He told her, "Now that you're my wife, you should serve us," and treated her like a servant. The terrible condition she was in was caused by Carter and his parents. I had suspected something was wrong when Layton rushed to my house, but hearing the details filled me with rage. I didn't want to trouble you, but I'm sorry. Seeing my daughter in such pain made me feel a strong desire for revenge against them. I wanted them to suffer for what they had done. I vowed in my heart that I would never forgive Carter and his parents, who had promised to make her happy but had caused her so much pain. For now, I let Layton rest and decided to confront Carter's family when daylight broke. The next morning, we first went to the hospital to have her injuries treated. After that, I drove with my daughter to their house. As expected, they were in a panic, having noticed Layton was missing. "So, you took her after all?" Carter's father shouted angrily when he saw it was me on the intercom. "Can you explain why Layton is in this condition?" I asked sternly, unfazed by his response. Next to me stood my daughter, her cheeks still swollen and bandaged, looking pitiful. Seeing her like this seemed to make them aware of the neighbors watching, so they let us into the house. The three of them hesitated for a moment but quickly revealed their true colors. Carter's mother glared at Layton and sneered. "We were just disciplining her a bit because she wasn't working properly." "What are you saying?" I shot back. "Carter, didn't you promise to make my daughter happy?" "That was only if she fulfilled her duties as a wife properly," he replied. "But she was too focused on her job. That's why I submitted her resignation letter for her." Layton hadn't quit her job willingly. Carter had done it without her knowledge. Tearfully, she explained that by the time she realized it, it was too late. Carter didn't like that Layton was busy with work and was coming home later than he did. She was working hard because she was excited to be at her dream job. "That's not my concern," Carter said dismissively. "If she can't balance both, she has to quit." Carter continued. "It took her an hour just to make dinner. She can't do any household chores properly." Even Carter's father chimed in against her. My daughter's shoulders shook with fear. "Couldn't you have supported her?" "Carter's mother?" I asked. Carter's mother crossed her arms and replied, "When I came here as a bride, I had to do everything and learn through experience." "That's right. It's a generational thing," Carter's father added. acting as if they had done nothing wrong. They nodded at each other, showing that Carter's mother had forced all the housework onto Layton while doing whatever she wanted. Carter's father, who had retired and stayed home, constantly monitored Layton and interfered with everything she did. They had even taken away Layton's phone to stop her from contacting me. When I visited their house, they had restrained her to prevent her from going outside. Layton had hoped that Carter would change and help her despite the terrible treatment she received. But that hope was in vain. Their treatment of her only worsened. They made her eat leftovers, claiming it was a waste of gas to cook fresh meals, and barely let her use more than a trickle of water for showers. When Layton could no longer bear it and told them this wasn't right, she suffered terrible injuries. They called her insolent and slapped her hard on the cheek. They took turns beating her, saying they would re-educate her. Finally, after being released while covered in injuries, Layton felt her life was in danger. While all three were asleep, she fled from her in-law's house, walking for over an hour to escape before arriving at my home. Before the wedding, you treated Layton with care. Why did you change so much? I can't accept this. I confronted them firmly. The three of them exchanged glances and smirked. From the beginning, I just wanted a wife who would obey me. I thought Layton would make a good servant, Carter said nonchalantly. His mother sighed, saying Layton was really disappointing. Well, she must have learned her lesson from this incident. Why don't we give her another chance? Carter's father suggested, and they all burst into laughter. That's enough. I can't forgive this anymore, I said, anger rising within me. Layton stared at the three of them and exclaimed, "How dare you speak to us like that?" When Carter tried to grab my daughter in anger, I quickly restrained him, pinning him to the floor. He struggled, and his parents stood frozen in shock at my swift movement. I hadn't mentioned it before, but I had been on the verge of making it to the Olympics in wrestling when I had to give it up due to an injury. I increased the pressure on Carter, and tears filled his eyes as he flailed his arms and legs. When I finally loosened my grip, he slumped down weakly, looking pathetic. Now, who should I deal with next? I said, cracking my knuckles as I slowly approached his parents. Please stop, they begged, covering their heads and trembling violently. I had sent my daughter off wishing for her happiness, but I vowed never to forgive them for what they had done to her. The three of them shrank back at my fierce demeanor. Carter, please divorce me, Layton said, following my lead. She presented the divorce papers in front of him. What are you talking about? I absolutely won't divorce you, he yelled, his face turning red. This morning, I took my daughter to the hospital and got a medical certificate for her injuries. I've also filed a police report. We have done nothing wrong, so we will fight this to the end, I told them slowly, looking at each of them in turn. Now, sweat was pouring down their foreheads as they started panicking, crying out, "Please stop. What about our reputation?" I want a divorce as soon as possible, Layton said, looking at them with disgust. I look forward to seeing what happens to you. You'd better regret what you've done. We gathered Layton's belongings and headed for the entrance. Wait, we heard Carter's pitiful voice behind us, but Layton and I left their house without looking back. After that, the divorce was finalized successfully, and Layton received $20,000 in compensation from Carter. The police report was accepted, and the three of them were questioned by the police. Although they were released soon after, I heard that the police came to their house to inspect the scene, which sparked gossip in the neighborhood. They were now viewed with suspicion. When Layton told her former colleagues about the mistreatment she endured from Carter, the news spread to his company, their client, and he was removed from the fast track to promotion. Meanwhile, Layton slowly healed from her mental and physical wounds at our home and began looking for a new job. My life is far from over. In fact, I've started training again because I want to get involved with wrestling once more.